awesome. Hey, thank you for, man, hymns. We don't do that a lot. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, if you're in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, you want to make your way out there right now. And for the rest of us, could we turn our Bibles to the book of Daniel, chapter 3, as we continue our series through the book of Daniel. And as you're doing that, I read about this 2nd grader this past week. God bless 2nd graders. He was having troubles with his studies. And so one day he goes to school and he has a message for Miss Smith, of course his 2nd grade teacher, and he says, Miss Smith, my daddy said that if my grades don't get better, somebody's going to get a spanking. Meaning she's the one getting the spanking. He's got this thing a little back of a kid. You want to get better, you know, if you want to improve your grades, you need to do better on your tests. Well, this morning we're going to talk about a major test that 3 Jewish guys went through, and it's found here in the book of Daniel. And we're going to see there's 3 questions that the king asks that will really help define you in the middle of whatever test you're going through. So, chapter 2, let's review from last week. We had chapter 2, remember, King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of all the world at that time. Matter of fact, it's been said, they doubt that there's ever been a king as powerful as Nebuchadnezzar. All right, he has a dream one night, and he wakes up, he can't remember the dream, he remembered the impact was kind of scary, and so he tells all his wise men, you guys tell me my dream, and then you tell me the interpretation. This is called an abuse of power, an abuse of authority. And of course, the wise men go, hey, listen, nobody's ever done that. And then Daniel, of course, remember, he prays. He seeks counsel and wisdom. And I love that about Daniel. He's going, okay, this is my new reality. It's crazy. I might die today. But I want to live my life in a way that honors God. We talked about 1 Samuel 2, verse 30, where God says, those who honor me, I will honor. And so here they honor God in the middle of this crazy trial. And God reveals the dream to Daniel. So Daniel goes before the king. Remember, he said, King, you have this dream of this awesome, in the original language, a gigantic statue. And it was in different metals as you went down. The head was of gold. And he says, you know what? You're the head. You're the king of kings, Nebuchadnezzar, and you rule over the world. But after you, so this is a prophetic dream, after you will come a more inferior kingdom. Now he didn't mention the Medes and the Persians, but that was the next kingdom. These 2 groups would form quite the alliance and overthrow the Babylonians. Now they were represented by the shoulders of silver, the breasts of silver. But after that, then we get into the time of the Greeks, when Alexander the Greek would rule the world. And of course, at 33 years old, he breaks down crying because there's no more kingdoms to overthrow. And the Greeks would represented by the thighs of brass. And then the Romans would be the legs of iron. And we see each metal went down in preciousness, went down in value, but went up in strength. And so by the time you get to the Romans, these guys are full on nasty. And they ruled the world for many years. Then there's a gap. It says, at verse 44, it says, well, the kings in those days, meaning there's going to be a big gap between the Roman kingdom and the kingdom that is yet to come. Where these 10 toes are gathered together. And in the end times, which we believe we're very close to be right there, 10-nation confederation somehow, the Antichrist will be raised up from there. And of course, he saw this rock come out of nowhere and smash that statue to smithereens, and that rock becomes a mountain and fills the whole earth. That's the kingdom of Jesus Christ. That's the one I'm looking forward to. So of course the king then, wow, I think I'm pretty cool being the head of gold. Well, between chapter 2 and 3, there's like 15 or 16 years. All right, that helps us to see, okay, these aren't teenagers anymore. They're young men, or they're middle-aged. Almost, what's funny about anybody middle-aged? They are in total denial. 75 is not middle-aged, or 35 is not middle-aged. Oh yeah, it is if you do the math. Anyway, so now they're more like the middle-aged guys. chapter 3, we find this religious intolerance, okay? The king says, you know what? I'm not just the head of gold, I'm the whole thing of gold. We find this king has abusive authority. He has serious problems with anger and with pride. Okay? So, we pick it up in chapter 3. I'm reading from the New King James Bible. Chapter 3, verse 1, Nebuchadnezzar, that's the king of Babylon, the king of the world at the time. He made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits. Remember, a cubit is like 18 inches, so that's 90 feet tall. Its width, 6 cubits, so that's 9 feet across. And he set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. What's so interesting about this, you can go to the plains of Dura today, and there's still this platform that's like 20 feet high, and it measures like 46 feet square. And they believe this is from ancient times where it probably was the foundation to a huge statue. Okay, it's still there. So he sets this up in the plains of Dura. Verse 2, and King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather the satraps. Now, you have to understand, this group is the cool people, okay? These are the guys you want at your party, but he gets thousands of them. The satraps, the administrators, the governors, counselors, treasurers, judges, a big group of people. So, in verse 3, they come, okay? And then in verse 4, things change. Then a herald cried out aloud, to you it is commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear, and he lists a bunch of different instruments. When you hear this, you're going to fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever doesn't fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. So at that time, everybody hears the sound, and they all fall down and worship the gold image that the king set up. Okay, religious intolerance. What they're saying, again, this is an image that's 90 feet high, 9 foot across. I was trying to find the dimensions for the rock tower down at Wyman at the Catholic Church, but just for instance, maybe it's probably not that exact measurement, but it's like, you know, you see it from a distance. It's 9 stories high, and if it's solid gold, we don't know, or maybe, you know, the infrastructure is wood and then it's overlaid with gold, but you polish that baby, and you put it in the middle, in the Mideast, you say, wow, the thing just is awesome. And so here they are. He invites the cool people. Now, if you were in today, you go, well, who do you want to invite to your party? And you go, okay, I want the movie stars, I want the surf stars, I want the rock stars. I want the politicians, I want the rulers, I want the in crowd. So here, it's like an honor to be invited to this thing. It's thousands of people. You go, serious? You got the invite? Let me see. Whoa, you're going to frame this thing? I mean, you're invited and I wasn't. And so they go there, and then, as they arrive, it gets complicated. Here's the part I didn't tell you about, gang. We're going to have this choir, we're going to have this orchestra do its thing, and as soon as you hear that, we're going to fall down and worship this idol. That's not what I signed up for. I came here to be part of the in-crowd. I came here because it was the happening thing. What do you mean now? I'm supposed to worship something. So this outside pressure, they're saying, we want you to conform to us. And as a matter of fact, there's no tolerance here. If you don't jump through our hoops, you're going to get thrown into the fire. I don't care what your religious beliefs are. I don't care what your convictions are. Here, you jump through our hoops, or you just go through the fire. You're going to be burned alive. So, what's interesting, we know the next step. We know the setup now. We can picture these planes, thousands of people, and all at once they all go down. Here's 3 guys going, wow, we kind of stand out. We're kind of noticed. Now everybody goes, well, where's Daniel in this? I don't know. The Bible doesn't say, so I don't have to. You know, I mean, he's obviously not compromising. But here's his 3 buddies, right? And they're not going to fall down. They're saying, you know, we're all in with the Lord. I don't play poker. I don't recommend it, but I know this is a poker term. When you know you are right, when you got to 21 and you're playing 21, you go, you know what? All my chips are in. I'm not holding anything back in case I'm wrong. I know I'm right. or in case I have to worship somebody else. No, I'm all in. I'm completely committed. Now, when it comes to religious intolerance, I want to explain to you about a foreign country where I grew up. Okay? Where I grew up, there was never a store open on Sunday. It was unheard of. The country where I grew up shut down on Sunday. We rode our bicycles in the parking lots on Sunday because it was so safe. Everybody took Sunday off. In the foreign country where I grew up, there was no spring break. It was Easter break from school. We didn't have spring spears. We had Easter eggs, okay? We didn't have a winter break. It was Christmas. And at the Christmas plays we did in our public schools were all about Jesus. And there were manger scenes everywhere, and crosses, and it was like every song was about Jesus, and the whole play was about Jesus and the good news. That's where I grew up. The foreign country I grew up, there was no such thing as legalized abortion. Now I'm really dating myself. I know that some of you are going, that's not where I grew up. There was no legalized pot. There was no legalized same-sex marriage. That's where I grew up. If you were to watch I Love Lucy, which is kind of annoying, but if you were to watch her, she couldn't use the word pregnant on TV. It was too risque. The shows were like Father Knows Best, and they all had a good moral to the story. The dad was in there. He wasn't a cuckoo. And of course, then there was Gary Robich's favorite one, My Three Sons, because he has 3 sons. But all the TV shows were good. They were wholesome. Cussing? There's no such thing as cussing on TV. That's where I grew up. Okay? What else has happened? I'm not saying it's time to fight. I'm saying it's time to let your light shine. And I make that very clear. We're not going to form any military and overthrow anyone. But the country I have now says, basically, there's no tolerance. We don't care what your religious beliefs are. And reportedly now in Obamacare, you have to pay for abortions, whether you like it or not. They don't care about your concerns. If you live in New Mexico this morning and you're a Christian photographer, you have to take pictures of a lesbian couple making their commitment. They don't care. They actually, the Supreme Court of New Mexico actually said, to the gist of it, we don't care. We know this is against your religious convictions. But so what? It's religious intolerance. It's basically you jump through our hoops or you go to jail or you're going to be fined huge time. Big time. How about performing marriages for same-sex? I mean, 20, 30 years ago, this was unheard of in Hawaii. But now it's this close. It's this close. Matter of fact, years ago, Pastor Chuck Smith said to all the Calvary chapels, you have to change your bylaws because it's coming. Put in your bylaws that you will not do same-sex marriages and stuff like that. We're going, what? But that's why we changed our bylaws. We don't rent out our Sunday school facilities because if you rent it out to something good, a good group, you have to rent it out to lesbians if they want, or homosexuals, or some weird group. They don't care about your convictions. They don't care that you have godly convictions. They say, I can't do that. They're just saying, hey, this is religious intolerance. We will not tolerate you having your own convictions. Again, I want to stress, I'm not saying, hey, let's stand up and fight. But let your light shine. See, one of the things about this story is, if you're considering yourself a Christian, the one that Jesus says, you're the light of the world, you're the salt of the earth, you don't have to try to stand up. The thing is, don't try to hide your light. Okay, so these guys, they take a stand. So, they refuse to bow. We pick it up again in Daniel chapter 3. Now in verse 8, therefore at that certain time, Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews, meaning Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Remember, 15, 16 years ago, Daniel chapter 2 ended with these guys getting a high-ranking promotion. These guys are up there, the Jews. And so here's the other guys going, I didn't get my promotion. Now I'm going to find fault with them. And they didn't bow down. So in verse 9, they spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, and all these things will bow down and worship the gold image. Verse 11, and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Hey, I hate to tell you, but there's those Jews. They didn't fall down. They don't serve your gods. Here's the accusation. They don't respect you, God. Okay. They don't serve your gods. They don't worship the gold image that you've set up. So, imagine being these three guys. And I saw one picture of artist rendition where, as far as you can see, people are flat on their face. So as far as you can see, everybody's maybe a foot high. And then there's these three guys standing around going, whoa, we kind of stand out. What were some of the excuses that maybe went through their mind? What if it's you? And you're going, man, I'm with the in crowd. I mean, I've been dying to get with these people, the movie stars, the rock stars, the surf stars. I just want to fit in. So what excuses? How about this one? Hey, it's just my job. I mean, I'm here, I'm paid by the king, and I'm good with this. Listen, I got a wife and kids at home, okay? We gotta eat. Besides, I'll never get that promotion I've been trying to unless I just bow down. How about this one? I bet you heard this one before. Everybody's doing it. You know what? Literally, that's the case. You look around, thousands of people are on the face. Why should I just stand up? I don't like drawing attention to myself. How about this one? If I die, if I get thrown into the fire, I'll never be able to reach all these people. And so I kind of have to bend a little bit so I can reach these people. That one doesn't work either. How about this? It's not like I have to renounce my Lord. I don't have to say, I don't believe in Jesus. I don't have to say, I'm walking away from God and, I won't go to church anymore. Hold on. Just for a few minutes. Say, I'm okay. I'll just bow to this thing and go my way. Here's one of my favorites. 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all, It's just 10 minutes of my life. That's all they're asking. Oh, come on. 10 minutes. It's not like it's going to change my destiny. Guys have ruined their lives in a lot less than 10 minutes. And he might say, hey, it's only 10 minutes, a one-time deal. It's not we have to come out here every Sunday. We don't have to come out here yearly or every decade. It's a one-time, 10 minutes to give you a break. 10 minutes can change your destiny. Final excuse is, this is more than can be expected. I don't see how a God of love would allow me to go through such a trial. I don't get it. And so, God, you're going to have to turn your head for just a few minutes while I bow to someone else. So from there, we get into the first of the three questions. Remember, the king is going to ask three questions that will help define your character, your direction, your outcome when you're in the midst of the fire and trial. So we pick it up in verses 13 and 14. Then Nebuchadnezzar, remember, he's the king. He's the king of kings is what he's been called. He's the ruler of the world at that time. In rage and fury, the guy's got an anger problem. Side note here, you got an anger problem, or you're trying to be best friends with someone who does, the book of Proverbs warns against that. Don't associate with a man given to anger lest you learn his ways. What is that supposed to mean? I'm watching Dad, man, does he have a short fuse? And I watch him with road rage as we just go a mile to the store. And I watch how he treats his wife, and I watch how he responds when somebody's, upsetting him. And I'm learning how to respond. I'm learning how to react in anger. So I said, don't associate with that guy. Lest you learn his ways, you think, this is how you respond. You intimidate people. So he says, with rage and fury, he gave the command to bring the three guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, saying to them, is it true? Here's our first question. Is it true that these three guys, that you don't serve my gods or worship the gold image which I've set up? Is it true? Hey, you know what? I'm hearing this about you. And I'm asking you face to face, here's the king. You talk about intimidation. This is the guy that one word, you're dead. And he goes, I'm hearing something about you. I'm not sure if I believe it. Why don't you tell me? Is it true? Do you really worship another God? Do you really refuse to jump through our hoops? Do you really think you have to be light? You have to be salt? Is it true that you believe in the Bible? Is it true that you believe that this is sin? Is it true that you pray and you believe God answers prayer? And so that first question, it's so good. Can we do some soul searching? Is it true? Do you really believe this? Because if you don't, now's the time to back down. If you do, it's going to cost you. Now, what happens when you stick to your guns? What happens when you take the stand? I read this past week. I just loved it. About well, here's first off, 2 Peter. Let me read this. Because when we do our next Ohana groups, we're going to finish up Peter. We did 1 Peter earlier this year. I want to do 2 Peter. And chapter 1, verses 3 and 4 is just so powerful. His divine power has given to us. It's already there. He's given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who called us by His glory in verse 4. By which you've been given, or have been given to us, exceedingly great and precious promises. Let's hope we treat them. Exceedingly great and precious promises, that through these you may be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that's in the world through lust. He says, you know what? You want to take a stand. God's giving you the boldness. God's giving you the power and the fire and the promises. It's there. So what happens for those who stand? I just love this story about a guy named Mr. Gerard, who lived in Philadelphia many years ago. He was a very ungodly man. And one day, on a Saturday, he instructed his workers, guys, we've got a big load coming in tomorrow. All of you are going to work. Remember, this is a foreign country today, for us today. People didn't work. And this one guy goes, Mr. Gerard, I'm sorry. I can't work tomorrow, Sunday. Kind of like that Chariots of Fire. Remember the movie where the guy wouldn't run the Olympics on Sunday? I can't do it. And so here Mr. Gerard goes, well, you know what? You can't. You're going to be fired. And the guy responds, I know. And I have a widowed mother that I have to care for. And I have no idea how I'm going to support her. But I can't work tomorrow. It's my conviction. And okay, you're fired. Go get your check. For 3 weeks, this guy goes without pay. For 3 weeks, he's trying to figure out how in the world am I going to make things, make rent and stuff. And then Mr. Gerard has a friend, a banker, who's going to open a new bank. And he calls Gerard, hey, you know what? I got a problem. I'm opening this new bank, and I need some trustworthy people. Who do you know that I could hire to be really trustworthy? You know what Mr. Gerard said? I got this guy I fired 3 weeks ago. He'd be great for you. What? Why would you recommend him if you fired him? You know what he said? Anyone who's willing to stand in his convictions, even at the risk of getting fired, that's someone you can trust your money with. Here's the guy that fired him, standing up for him because he was a man of conviction. Question number 2. Remember question number 1. Is it true? Do you really stand on it? Do you really believe these things? Are you really ready to take the risk? Okay? Question number 2. Now we pick it up in verse 15. Now if you're ready, here's the king speaking to these guys. If you're ready, at the proper time when you hear all this music, and you fall down and worship the image I made, good. Let's give you one last chance. But if you don't worship, if you don't jump through my hoops, you're going to be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fire furnace. And here's his next question. Who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? He says, you know what? I'll give you one last chance. And I can just picture, and there's the oven over there. Hey, that bubble's hot. And you will go there immediately. You don't even have another breath. You tell me right now, yes or no, are you going to bow or are you going to burn? I'll give you one last chance. Here's the king who had the authority to throw them in the fire. But it's like he's saying, I don't want to burn you guys. I've known you for 15, 16 or plus years. You've been great leaders. I value you. I don't want you to end up this way. Come on, just do it. Who cares? Just bow. Be all fine. But if not, there's the intimidation factor. You're toast. Literally, you'll be burnt off. So, here they go. You know what? I love their answer. We don't have to even think about answering you. We don't have to pray and fast about this one. Because we believe there is a God who's able. It's good to know what faith is not at this point. And faith isn't, that I have this belief I'm trusting in this certain belief, which means I have faith in faith. A lot of people have this. They just, if you confess it long enough and hard enough and with enough passion, it's going to come true. No, that fire's going to be there regardless of how much you confess. You know what another thing faith is not? It's not trusting in an outcome of which you think is going to happen. Meaning, I can't picture Bethany Hamilton having an arm bitten off by a shark, so it's not going to happen. I can't picture Johnny Erickson Tata diving into the water, breaking her neck, and living as her, and drawing wonderful pictures with a pen in her teeth. And I can't picture this guy losing his job, and I can't picture this gal dying, and so it's not going to happen. You go, no, that's not an option, God, because I can't see it that way. I can't see you using it that way. Here's another thing that faith is not. It's not thinking, I know God's will. I know God's will. I've read His Word, and I put this scripture with this scripture, and He has to heal you. He is obligated to do this in your life. I know He's going to. Well, then what about Johnny Erickson's happening? And how God's used her to reach the world. What about Nick, who we talked about last week? No arms, no legs. God's used her to reach the world. Bethany Hamilton having an arm bit up. God's used her to reach the world. But if we go, God is obligated to do it this way. You know what faith is? Real faith. Faith is trusting God. Faith is trusting God. You know what? God, in my life, you are free to be God. I don't have this figured out. And here's where these guys are. We go, if He delivers us, fine. If not, fine. We're not bowing. We're not bowing. You see, the real test of faith is when you hear no. God says, no, I'm not going to heal. No, I'm not going to restore. No, you're not going to keep that job. No, you're not going to. What do you mean, no? You see, it's interesting because we know this story. Daniel chapter 3 is one of the best known chapters in the entire Bible. You could share this story, no problem. And we love the story because God delivers him through the fire. The fire has no problem with it. Well, how about Polycarp? All right? He was burned with fire. Polycarp, you go back in time, John the Apostle, the guy who wrote the Gospel of John, the guy who wrote Revelation and other books in the Bible, he ordains Polycarp. He makes him the Bishop of Smyrna. I mean, that's pretty good passing the baton. And yet Polycarp is persecuted. He's persecuted. They put him at the stake. They say, you're going to burn at the stake. And then there's the same kind of deal. Come on. Why don't you just renounce Christ? We'll let this go away. I don't want you to die, old man. Polycarp was not delivered in the body. He died. But God delivered him by taking him home. See, true faith is when we hear God say, no, you got to trust me for my plans. Okay? So then we pick it up. Here's his third question. Who's in the fire with you? Begin in verse 19. Nebuchadnezzar was, I didn't read first. Did I read 16 and 17? I didn't, I'm sorry. We start, who is the God who is able to deliver you from my hands? That's his question, second question. And verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said, we don't have any need to answer you this matter, meaning we don't have to pray and fast on this. If that's the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from this fiery, burning fiery furnace. and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, we're not going to bow. We're not going to serve your gods, worship the golden image which you set up. So that's their response. Even if God says no, we're still all in. Verse 19, then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expressions on his face changed to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it's usually heated. He commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, cast them into the burning fiery furnace, and then they were bound. Notice the emphasis. These guys were tied up, bound in their coats, trousers, turbans, other things that would catch fire, and cast them into the middle of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, there's their names again, fell down in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then the king, he's about to ask the 3rd question. He's astonished. He rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, didn't we cast 3 men in the fire? They were bound. There's that emphasis again. And the answering said to the king, true, O king. He says, look, I see 4 men loose. They're not bound. Walking in the midst of the fire, and they're not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Okay, on this 3rd question, first we said, is it true? Do you really believe this, even in spite of, in face of opposition, persecution? Second, who's going to deliver you if you don't bow? You don't jump through hoops. The 3rd one, which weakened a little bit. Because we know, and as the king turns to the soldiers, go, hey, how many of these throw it in there? I thought there was 3. Now there's 4. Let's tweak that question. And ask the guys in the furnace, hey, who's with you in the fire? You're in the fire. There's no denying. Who's the guy with you? So I love this, okay? Who's in the fire with you? Now, king is full of fury. Don't associate with a man given to anger. The furnace is 7 times hotter, and the men of valor are killed. So, in other words, this baby's hot. You're toast. You're not going to last very long at all. Who's there with you? Jesus said, you know what? I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. And we know he looks like the Son of God. Later on, he calls him an angel. We don't know if it's an angel or a Christophany, an Old Testament appearance of Christ. We don't know. But we know that whatever it was divinely sent by God to help them in the midst of their fiery furnace. You see, some of you are in a trial today, and it might not be anything compared to them. It might be you wish we're in the furnace because your trial is even worse. Very simple question. Who's in your fire with you? Who's there with you? I think it's great that it's not just Shadrach in there, but it's the 3 of us. I think it's great when you're in a fire with guys, with friends, godly people who have the same convictions, the same no compromise as you. But sometimes you're in there alone. Sometimes you wish there was a Shadrach, Meshach, or Abednego with, but you're not. It's just you, but you're not alone. You see, the 3rd question the king asked is maybe the best. Hey, who's in the fire with you? Who's that I see with you? And here's where Jesus said, maybe this makes more impact. I'll never leave you. He doesn't say, I'll come up to the edge of the fire furnace and then I'm out of it. No, I will never leave you. How about this one from Psalm 34, verse 18? It says that God promises he is near the brokenhearted. Now, what he doesn't promise is that you'll feel that he's near. Or you'll hear him speak because he's so near. Or you'll hear his heartbeat. It doesn't say that. It's basically in spite of what you feel. In spite of what you think. In spite of what you're going through. He's there. You're going through that fiery furnace. You're going through that brokenheartedness. God's there. Who's with you in your fire? So this is how it happens. It ends. The king has a change of heart. Verse 26. He's near the mouth of the fiery furnace. And he says, hey guys, I love this. Come on out. They had to be called out. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came from the midst of the fire, and all these guys, remember all the cool guys? Satraps, administrators, all these guys are all watching. The rock stars. These are the guys we wanted to impress. Well, guess what? By being faithful to God, they're all watching. And they gathered together. They saw these men on whose bodies the fire had no power. The hair on their head was not singed, or the garments wasn't affected. And I love this. Maybe it's the best part of the whole chapter. The smell of fire was not on them. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, hey, this is the God. Anybody who goes against this God, you're toast. So here's this change of heart. What's going on? Number one, I love it that they had to be told, come on out of the fire. I know we threw you in. I know we tried to do our best. It's time to come on out. I love it that they had to be told, okay, time's up. Maybe they felt safer in the fire with the Lord than on the outside with this gold statue. Okay, time's up. You're good. Come on out. My favorite part, no smell of smoke. You ever go through a fire sale when a store closed because of smoke? I don't care what you do to that garment. It smells like smoke. It doesn't matter. You come back 10 years later, it smells like smoke. Now, picture this cool crowd, right? The rock stars, the surf stars, the movie stars, they're all going, I don't smell smoke. How about the king? Can you picture Nebuchadnezzar? Get out of it. Let me see. I don't smell smoke. I don't smell smoke. Folks, that's how God is glorified. When you come through a trial, and people go, I don't smell any smoke. How do you know that God's not getting glorified? When you're in that trial and people go, oh, I smell this smoke. That guy comes around and I start coughing. Smoke. Why? Because all they want to talk about is the furnace fires. Did I just say furnace fire? And you accepted that? Fiery furnace. Okay? What happens when you're 60? It just gets crazy. If all I do is smell like smoke, God is not good. Now, am I saying you can't dump on someone and just say, I need to vent? I'm not saying that at all. But if all I do is vent and dump, something's wrong. Who's with you in the fire? No, I don't smell anything. And then the king says, you know what? People think he was converted at this point. If he's converted at all, it's in chapter 4. But at this point, it seems he adds Jehovah to his other list of gods. And he just makes Jehovah's on top, okay? I was sharing with a gal in India, a grandma, old lady that was begging in a train station many years ago. And usually you don't give money because if you give one to one, it's just hundreds around. But I felt God said, you give her some money. And so, I'm giving her some money, and I'm telling her, Jesus loves you. Jesus, she had all these medals around her, all these different necklaces, and she found the one with Jesus. Yeah, I got Jesus. I got Buddha. I got him. I got this, and I got Jesus. That's how the king was here. Yeah, okay, we'll put Joe, but he's up on top. And I think he's really special because of what he did to these guys. Here's what we do with this. Remember we started with a little boy in school, 2nd grade, and told his teacher, Miss Smith, my daddy said if I don't get better grades, someone's getting a spanking, meaning I'm not growing and it's your fault. And he told the 2nd grader, it's time to study. It's time to do better on your tests. It's not the teacher's fault. He wants better grades, do better on the tests. Guys, life seems to be one test after the other. If we want better grades, we need to do better scores on these tests. So, those 3 questions, this is what I want to leave with. 3 questions that'll help us on these tests. Because we have similar things today. We have in school. I don't have to remind you what school is like, and some of you are still in school. And the popularity contest. I want to be with these people. I want to be accepted. I don't want to be the nerd. I don't want to be the outcast. Or how about the position on the job where you go, I want to excel, okay? I want a promotion. I want to buy that house. I want to be able to get a better car for my bride or whatever it is. Like, you got this kind of pressure. Or how about the cool people? You got an invite to that party? Seriously? That party's got all movie stars and rock stars and surf stars, and I want to be in it. Do anything to be included. Not anything. So, first question, is it true? I've heard this about you. You really believe that? You really believe Jesus is the way? Do you believe I'm going to hell because I've rejected him? You really believe that stuff? You see, it's one thing to take a stand, okay? Which they did. Remember, everybody's bowing down and 3 guys are still. It's another thing to remain standing when this guy, this king, is asking, you sure you believe that? Remember Peter? He could follow Jesus when Jesus was arrested, but let a 12-year-old little girl come on, hey, is it true? Peter, aren't you one of them? No, he backed down. Is it true? You see, you're not going to have the grandeur of being in front of thousands of people and able to, yes, it's true. It's probably one person. And they might not be of the cool crowd. They might be the outcast that nobody considers. But maybe they see hope in you. Maybe they say, I see someone who's got some guts. I see someone who stands for something. I want to ask them. I want hope. And they go, hey, is it true? And you might just, I think it's more likely to happen like that than in front of thousands of people at the same time. Is it true? What if it's not true? What if somebody says this is true? No. Just go to the church once or twice. Who's down me as a kid? And don't confess it. The real gut question is it true? I mean, come on, nobody's around. Nobody's looking. Just me and you. Is it true? Do you really believe Jesus is the only way to heaven? Do you really believe that broad is the way to destruction and many go that way? Only a few go to the way of eternal. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that some guy dying a shameful death on a cross is going to cover my sins? Because I want to know. Is it true you believe that? Here's the second question. Who's able to deliver you? And you have to define, well, let's talk about deliver. Because if your idea delivers, the only way out of this is that God just somehow miraculously does a miracle. No, you know what? My God is able. He's more than able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. Hey, that's not the issue. But if in His will He has a different plan, I trust Him. I trust Him. So maybe this is a misleading question. Who's able? My God's able. That's not the issue. Am I able to trust Him regardless of the outcome? Finally, who's in the fire with you? You're in there by yourself? Look at how it walks. Then this is the end. Consider the end result. Okay? The end result of this fiery furnace, number one, well, they would not have this new sense of freedom. Remember, at least 3-4 times it says they're bound. They're bound. They're in emphasis. They're not going to get out of this. And yet the very trial that was designed to destroy them ends up freeing them instead. This is great. I didn't know trials could do this. This is wonderful. We're going to pray trials for everybody else. No. When you go, wow, this was intended to destroy me. I'm thinking of Joseph to his brothers. You intended it for evil. God used it for good. I'm a free man now. How about the second one? New source of fellowship. I thought I was just getting thrown in there and God had forsaken me. And yet there's something about, as Philippians 3 says, the fellowship of God's sufferings, of Christ's sufferings, where it's sweeter now than it was when I was lackadaisical. Jesus means more to me now as a result of this trial. I didn't see that coming. Are you kidding? I saw the trial. Let me run. Let me get out of here just 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if I get out of here. But because I've gone through that trial and I've honored God in it, I have a deeper relationship with Christ as a result. The fellowship with Him is sweeter. Finally, they got a new opportunity. Because as a result of this trial, they were promoted. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were promoted again because they could be trusted. I leave you with this. Is it true? Could you stand before that king and say, it's true, I believe in Jesus Christ? Who's going to deliver you? God can. But I don't care if He does or not. I'm not bowing. Who's with you in the fire? Who's with you? Because if you smell like smoke, you need to remember who's with you in the fire. There is hope. He controls the temperature of the fire, the length of the fire, the intensity, the results. He wants us to glorify Him. Guys, let's stand up. Can you sing this one? Have thine own way, Lord. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after Thy will, while I am waiting, yielded and still. Let's be yielded and still right now. For a little while. These searching hearts, is it true? Do you believe in me to the point you would never jump through hoops and bow to another? You're willing to take that stand no matter what persecution might come? Is it true? Second question, is He able to do that in your life? Or do you hear yes or no? And when the answer is yes, Lord, there's nobody else. There's no way else. You are the leader. So the third question this morning, who's with you in your fire? You smell like smoke? You glorify the Lord. Father, I pray for myself. I pray for my family and friends. Trials are undeniable. The fiery furnace waits in one shape or another. But we want to be true. We want to live lives that honor you. You can honor us in this return. Lord, I pray for those who are going through Hades on earth right now with some kind of crazy trial. And they smell like smoke. They've been crying out, trying to figure out how the outcome will be. I simply pray that we'd be with them, Father. They would know that. They would enjoy the fellowship of your sons. They would have the hope that this will not last forever. You will be glorified. In Jesus' name. Amen. Hey guys, if you want to know more about Jesus Christ, we have some folks over here ready to talk to you. You need a Bible, we give them out. It's the Word of God. That's what Jesus. If you want some prayer, you got some folks over here ready to pray for you. And one last thing that you'll really like. Everybody loved the new t-shirts, the new logos and all that stuff, right? We made those specifically for our workers on Easter, and the guys going door to door with the invites and this and that. We do have some left over. So if you already have one, you have the privilege of letting someone else have the ones that now we have them over here. Your kids in Sunday school are getting them right now. They're getting theirs handed out. So if you'd like one, you know, oh, I got Uncle Louis, yeah, the empty place in Mexico. No. You like one, you get one. You already have one, you get to give away to somebody else. Amen? Next Sunday, invite your friends, your enemies, your neighbors. It's going to be powerful. Happy Mother's Day. I love you guys. I want God's best for you. Let's go.